This is episode 38 of the Anime Podcast, which tonight I'm lengthening to the Anime Tile Podcast, standing for another night instilling my excellent taste in listeners everywhere. Is that right?
I'm Grenchler, and this is a podcast.
And my name's Whooper. So now that we've introduced ourselves, we can skip right into the anime. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
We're not, we decided to stop watching The Promised Neverland because ultimately we were just griping and complaining about it every week. I mean, not that it didn't deserve it.
It did. It absolutely did.
Objectively horrible.
Objectively.
Yeah, so we might be able to get this one done in less than an hour. Just get in and out of here and not waste any of your time. With that said, let's jump right into it.
Let's just waste an hour of your time.
With what shows?
I think we should start with everyone's favorite middle school boy, Mobarino.
Okay.
Everyone calls him Mob, right?
Yeah.
What's his real name?
Dude, that's a great question. His last name is Kaguya-sama.
Right.
Shigeo. Dimple calls him Shigeo.
So Shigeo Kageyama.
Yeah. In Japanese, it would be Kageyama Shigeo, since they put the family name first.
Well, they just mix up the entire sentence, essentially.
Yeah, but for name specifically. Their quote-unquote last name, which of course they wouldn't refer to that way. It's the family name.
Right.
The surname, which comes first.
Okay.
His name is Kageyama Shigeo. But yes, everybody calls him Mob for whatever reason.
I actually really liked in this episode the resolution to the fight with essentially the NEET.
Yeah, me too. I much preferred the fight against the shut-in as opposed to the fight against Sho's dad.
Right, which hasn't even started. As you know, episode 13 is right around the corner. We know that 80% of it is just going to be.
Hopefully not 80%. That's like way too much since it's the last episode of the season. I would prefer a 50-50 split.
Honestly, based on how this episode looked, I really think they're saving their money.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought this episode looked great.
I think it looked fine, but compared to all the other episodes, the lack of movement, there's definitely a lot more like...
There's a lot of standing around talking.
There's a lot of standing around talking, exactly. And that's... While that's story based as well, I don't think it was entirely just like, hey, so we're going to do this for story only. I think a lot of it is let's save our money for the final episode, for the big hitter.
Sure. Yeah, the production desk in anime is, they cooperate with the director and the storyboard artists and stuff to figure out where a lot of resources ought to be concentrated, where they need the most manpower, and where to bring in freelancers for like really dense, heavy scenes.
Do you think they're going to bring in someone special for the fight scene?
I don't know. They might. Probably.
Like, I know for the last episode of the last work of Ones that aired, One Punch Man, the fight between the space alien and
Boros.
Yeah,
I'm actually rewatching One Punch Man right now.
Really?
Yeah, I'm rewatching like dozens of series for my end of the decade video that I'm doing in December.
And One Punch Man's getting season 2 in a week or two?
Yeah, less than a week, 4 or 5 days.
Wow.
And it's one of the series that will be up for like potentially covering.
Up potentially? You really think that it might not get a high enough score?
There's a lot of rumors swirling around about the production being a bit of a nightmare, like a mess. With the switch to a different director and a different studio, and
well, then we'll see.
Whatever.
I'll watch it either way for sure.
Yeah, I probably will as well.
I love the first season so much that I'll even if
it's really good.
Even if a couple episodes go by and they're duds, I'll just hope that something awesome's going to come out of it. So
yeah, it was a good series when it aired. It holds up now as I'm rewatching it. I mean, for the most part.
What about it doesn't hold up to you? Switching gears for a second.
I have the same issues with Mob Psycho that I do with One Punch Man when it gets too focused on like combat and just pyrotechnics and just.
But that makes more sense in One Punch Man, doesn't it? He's a guy who kills people in a single hit.
Yeah, but
it's going to be about combat.
What's interesting about One Punch Man is
his daily life,
the horror of his existence. Like just.
He can't catch a fly.
No, not the not catching of a fly.
He can't get enough money to pay for his groceries.
On an existential level. Like there's nothing to challenge him. There's nothing for him to accomplish because he's already super powerful. There's no reason for him, like if his purpose is to be a hero, which he gave up 3 years of his life to train to do, and now he's become so strong that those 3 years were, from a certain perspective, wasted. Because now he's become what he wanted to be, but like the cost is too great. Now he's
bald.
He's bored. Yeah, he lost all his hair. And to me, the funniest part of One Punch Man, the best part is the first 5 episodes. When he's encountering like a new villain of the week every time, and the gag is still fresh, and it's more focused on the comedy that springs from his absurd power, and everyone.
My favorite is when he's fighting the water demon or the water boss. I think it's around episode 7 or 8.
Yeah, it's
and
8 and 9.
He hits him so hard that it stops raining.
Yeah,
that's just like.
See, but that's the thing. Like that's really
incredible.
That's really cool, that concept. But it's all just like, wow, look how hard he punched. But he punched really hard. He punched one punch, and the guy died.
Yes, but the whole lead up to it, where he's getting a ride from Moomin Rider, and they're talking and everything like that, and it's like exploring his backstory and like his rise to be a hero. Like that's interesting. It's like the parts where One Punch Man fights someone, it's 90% expository dialogue while he gets hit around and contemplates himself, and then he blows the person up in one hit.
Okay, well.
It's supposed to be a parody of like Dragon Ball Z, rather than 90% of the episode being them like powering up, just being like and yelling at each other. It's him like thinking to himself as he gets beat up, and then he dispatches him in one hit.
Okay, well, what about all the stuff with the Hero Association and the 17 Class S heroes who are always like, eating up a bunch of screen time and saying.
I think what they're trying to build up the mythos, and then that's
the thing. He goes
into battle with them and just blows them out of the water immediately.
The concept was good for like 6 episodes. That's what that concept is worth. It's hilarious for 6 episodes. And then you're like, oh my God, this is just Dragon Ball Z with a really nice looking coat of paint.
At the very least, the show is a visual feast. At the absolute minimum, it looks phenomenal.
Okay, well, yeah, that's true, but that's not. Why are we talking about
what we were talking about? Is how I said that
you think they're saving money in this
episode of Mob. I really thought that they were saving money for a lot of it. You saw like 2 or 3 explosions, a couple little swirlies, a floating building.
What is a swirly?
The energy around them when they're doing psychics.
Oh yeah,
it kind of looks like you're looking through a kaleidoscope.
Yeah, I don't think that costs very much money at all.
I don't either.
That's just computer. That's computer generated.
Yep. I really think that they're saving their money for like
they're adapting the fight as it happened in the manga.
World-ending fight.
I doubt it.
Well, we'll see. Obviously, but I did really like this episode. I loved the resolution with.
He's just like me. You're just like me.
I don't remember his name.
Serizawa. The shut-in.
I love the resolution with him, and especially during the fight with Joe's dad, the flashbacks to the conversations he had with Serizawa. I thought those were great.
Who, the dad? What is his name? What's the dad's name? I can't remember. It starts with a T, I think.
Teru. And I know that's wrong.
That's Pineapple Head.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. I'm just going to keep calling him Sho's dad. That's what I wrote in my notes.
Yeah, that's what I wrote too.
Serizawa, did you notice that he says to Mob, or he thinks about Mob, he's just like me. And then Mob says to him, you're just like me. Not once, but twice.
Yeah.
You hate to see that. You hate to see you're just like me.
You hate to see your boy done in like that. You're supposed to be the chosen one, Mob. You're supposed to save us from stale anime. Now you go and do this.
You've become the thing to which you were supposed to be the antidote. It's not all that bad, but it is kind of annoying.
I didn't mind it as much as you did, I suppose.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's cool. I mean, Serizawa is the other side of the coin for Mob, because Mob manages to make friends, and find himself at school, join a club, strive to improve himself, hold down a job with somebody who he can look up to as a mentor.
And he understands, what it is to be a normal human, and he understands the.
Well, no, he doesn't. He's not a normal human by any stretch of the imagination.
No, but he understands what it's like to be, because he doesn't, in his normal everyday activity, boost himself with his abilities. So he understands how much work, everyone else in the Body Improvement Club has to have put in to be like that.
Yeah.
He understands how much work his smarter classmates must have to put in, or his more popular classmates, what traits they have in order to be like that. He has to
boobies.
I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of it. But there are popular
cool
dudes
hair
in cool hair. I think in Japan it's if you want to be popular, you either need boobs or cool hair.
I think that's not a Japanese thing. That's a worldwide thing.
I don't think you need cool hair in America. I think you just need muscles.
I think cool
if you're
hair
a dude.
Hair helps. Women love hair.
I have great hair, and women hate me. So obviously, that's a lie.
You're not styling it. You have to
exactly.
style it.
It's the perfect style. It's the unkempt, unruly.
No.
Hey, I'm a badass kind of style.
No, that's inadequate. You have to if you want.
I am inadequate.
If you want to go
that's
for
true.
that, if you want to go for that, you have to style it so that it looks like that. So that it can be discerned by looking at your hair that an effort was made to make it look the way
How
it
many
looks.
hours did it take for you to find the outfit that said, I don't care?
That's the thing. It's got to take at least 15 minutes. It has to be evident from a glance at your hair
that you spent time.
That it took at least 15 minutes. That's the bare minimum.
Instead of, this is how it dried.
Well, I mean, I suppose that it could actually dry in a certain way and you can just leave it. But it needs to look like you did more than just let it dry.
I don't do that.
That's important.
And obviously that's my mistake. I'm not winging it enough. You're
not making it look as though you're winging it enough.
I'm not wing-a-ringing it enough. Is that a word? It is now.
So Serizawa, it's taking us a fucking long time to actually talk about this episode. Serizawa is the other side of the coin from Mob.
He's Mob's power level with the opposite mentality.
Well, yeah, I suppose. Yeah, the opposite mentality, because it turns out in Mob's life that he is able to form connections with people and build friendships. Serizawa is what Mob could have been if he had stayed isolated from everybody and had not put in, the effort and the energy to talk to people, to seek them out, to try
know people,
to become friends with them,
to better himself, rather than just to be like, I'm better than everyone,
to shut himself away.
And Mob apparently has the ability to share his power with other people.
Yes,
because he
has the same power
picks up
as
Show's
dad. Yeah, he gives some of his power to Show. Yeah,
and that's one of the reasons that Show's dad is just like, you're a threat.
Yeah, he acknowledges him as his rival, and then zooms forward in a really cool looking scene and grabs his head.
I think we got a bad translation.
Okay,
or it was bad dialogue. One of the two.
What are you talking about?
In that scene, it's just like, I've acknowledged you as my rival. It should have been more of like, it's like, you are a real threat to me.
That's essentially what he was saying.
But it was said in a not great way.
What's not great about it? I don't get it.
It was said in like an overdramatic Marvel villain kind of way.
That's the point in the show that we have reached. This is the Marvel phase. Everyone is just flinging fucking buildings at each other.
Yeah, well, literally at the end, they're floating on a building. So
this is the Marvel part. We've been in the Marvel part.
For like, also, something we haven't covered yet. All the other Claw dudes are turning against Show's dad.
Yeah, wasn't that the whole point? They gathered The Ultimate Five.
Yeah, the Ultimate Five. They saved Reagan.
Yeah, Plant Man saves Reagan and 2 other people, right?
Yeah,
Teru and Ritsu, or
Reagan,
Serizawa,
and
Serizawa.
Yeah,
okay.
As they're falling out of the building.
That's right. That happens right near the very end, as Mob is levitating the building.
He looks over to the technology dude that was part of the Ultimate Five.
You're betraying him.
And it's just like,
yeah, we've come to that point in the script.
Just like, I think we're at that point. And I didn't think to myself, oh yeah, that's the point in the script we've gotten to. But now that I think about it, that's exactly what happened with them. It's just like, oh, now we're saving people. We get beaten once and now we're good guys. Yeah.
Well, that's a shonen. That's something from the shonen textbook, playbook, whatever. Is after you're beaten by the hero, you are immediately reformed.
Yeah, Gaara gets beaten, immediately turns to be a good guy.
Right, yes. Sort of.
Gets beaten by...
Naruto.
No.
Yeah.
Sasuke. Sasuke finally hurts him. They run away, and then next time you encounter Gaara in the show, he's a good guy.
Wait, what? Oh, okay.
Because Gaara...
No, Sasuke hurts him when they're actually in the arena.
Yes.
Doesn't Naruto beat him when they're in the trees or whatever?
He beats the shit out of him afterwards.
After they've run away?
Yeah.
Because what's going on in the arena at that point is the Orochimaru versus the third Hokage.
Which, that episode, so good.
Yeah, it was cool, man.
Fantastic. Anyways,
my 15-year-old brain was blown.
Your regular adult brain would be just how amazing it looks.
I can't even really remember.
Fantastic. But, anyways.
I want to talk more about Serizawa.
Sure.
Because in addition to being like, the ultra version of Mob, let's say, the timeline branches or whatever. And he's the version of Mob that never reached out to people or never had people reach out to him. And he's just sitting alone in the dark for 15 years or something. Then, that's the way Mob could have turned out, I guess. But there's also a parallel drawn, I think, between Sho's dad and Reagan. Because Sho's father, the one who's striving for world domination, is the one who comes in and seeks out Serizawa in his room. He assumes that he's a counselor, but really he's a psychic. And so Serizawa latches onto him.
Yeah.
And in fact, his whole sense of self is his concept of who he is gets tied up in
Serizawa and his work
and Sho's dad. So that when his umbrella is taken away in the fight with Mob, his umbrella representing that connection
and
with Sho's
that
dad.
House.
What house?
Because it's whenever you're under this umbrella, you're still back in your room.
Oh,
was the phrase that he used.
Oh, I didn't even... Yeah, that's true. And I made a note of that. But I guess I didn't think about the fact that when his umbrella gets stripped away, it's as though he's...
It's like he's back out in the wild. He's not... he's not in a safe place anymore. And so he freaks out.
Right. Because it's almost as though he's being forced out of his room again. Because he's kind of still there mentally. Yeah. So his whole self-concept gets tied up in... everything that Sho's dad wants for himself and wants for him. Whereas Mob, the relationship that Mob has with Reagan is more, at this point, even, where they're both on level ground, because they, Reagan recognizes his power and Mob still values their relationship. So I think they were contrasted, which might be why the author felt shoehorning in a scene where Reagan, walks up to him and trains a gun on him, and then pointlessly walks up to him and tries to blindside him with physical attacks. That just felt really weird to me. We already saw him doing something similar at the end of season 1 in the Claw base, and he did the same song and dance with the teleporter guy, just a couple hours ago in real time.
Yeah.
So that's a little too much. Like Reagan didn't need to be involved in this fight, and I think maybe the reason that he got thrown in there was to make some sort of contrast between him and Cho's dad.
Yeah.
Like Reagan is a good guy who's trying to do the right thing, and Cho's dad is a bad guy who's
trying to
violating
do
social norms. He's killing people. Don't do it.
I mean,
it's bad.
I mean, you shouldn't. I wouldn't put a sarcastic spin on that.
Well, that's another thing that I don't want to go too deep into because we're running out of time because we spent 5 minutes talking about One Punch Man for no reason. But that's what a lot of superhero stories boil down to, is that you have a bunch of people with, godlike power. And
some of them want to kill people and the others don't.
Well, it's more about like adhering to what's acceptable in whatever society the show is set against.
So either 13th, 15th, or 20th century Japan.
Well, I just mean like some
it's either the feudal era, the mid-feudal era, or modern
some
Japan.
Heroes, based on their strength and their power, or rather with their strength and their power, they want to establish like a new world order or a society where discrimination is encouraged. To give, like Magneto, for example, he wants, super powered people rise up, whereas his enemies
Gamers rise up.
His enemies want to preserve the status quo. They want to make sure that society stays on its current course and follow whatever is commonly thought of as reasonable. So like most superhero stories are like really flashy versions of CBS cop procedurals where the point of the series is enforce the status quo. Don't worry, guys, everything is okay.
I think that's a little too simplistic, though.
How am I wrong?
Well, because you're assuming that the heroes have such one-dimensional and simple motives. It's like enforce the status quo. What if their version of enforcement is, hey, don't let this dude murder millions of people?
But think about it in terms of constructing the story from an authorial standpoint, like who's writing it.
Okay, so the bad guy wants to change the status quo. He's going to murder millions of people to do it.
Right. So killing bad.
Right.
And what do the good guys want?
The good guys don't want the people to be killed.
Right.
So not killing good.
Right.
All right. Now, what does that have to do with enforcing a status quo or not? Millions of people dead or status quo saved? What do you think their actual motive is? Is it to save the status quo or is it to stop millions from dying?
You're talking again about the motives of the characters. I'm asking you to consider the implications of the narrative from like a constructed standpoint, the person who's putting it all together. What happens in superhero movies?
Considering the superheroes and the X-Men were wrote in the 40s and 50s for the most part, it's honestly kind of hard to tell.
They keep writing comics.
Yes.
All those characters.
When they were originally written, which is what a lot of the movies that are now are based on, the source material from the 40s and 50s.
I don't know if Infinity War is that old.
No, Infinity War was the 80s.
Okay. Well, what does it matter when they were written?
I think that you're trying to boil it down to, the good guy. You said, because as you said, the good guys are enforcing the status quo, and the bad guys are trying to upset it. No, the bad guys are trying to change something, which happens to murder millions of people, and the good guys are like, hey, we're going to stop them, but only because they're murdering millions of people.
Right, but
changing the status quo isn't the problem. It's the death of millions of innocents that is the problem.
That's what I'm saying. The bad guys are violating what's thought of as okay, based on the things we're all taught as like normal and acceptable.
So do you perceive murder to be okay?
No, I'm not talking about what's okay and what's not. I'm not talking about the heinousness of the bad guy's crimes. I'm not talking about how it makes me feel. I'm saying that superhero stories essentially boil down to one group of really, because that's the whole thing. They're so powerful that they don't necessarily need to be beholden to these norms. They're for normal people. So you have a bunch of people with godlike abilities who want to do something that's seen as unacceptable through the eyes of the law, society, whatever term you want to use. I don't want to just say society 500 times.
Sure.
You've got a bunch of bad guys who want to do something that is bad based on what's okay.
Based on what is perceived as bad.
Yeah, or good.
Right.
And then you have the good guys who want to stop that thing from happening keep everything safe, okay, acceptable, normal, rational, reasonable.
I think
and they use their godlike power in order to kind of reinforce to the audience that what's all right for everybody who's normal is what's all right for everyone. This is the way things ought to be.
I think you're taking taking
guys.
a three-dimensional problem and making it two-dimensional.
No, that's pretty much the whole argument that I'm making, is that superhero movies or stories in general are two-dimensional. They just have a whole bunch of really fancy costumes and powers laid on top.
Well, maybe superhero movies are like that, but I don't think the books are.
Well, I'm not qualified to judge, but that's what's going on in Mob Psycho right now. Like, think about it. The mob is moralizing to
a supervillain.
To the supervillain and to Serizawa.
But Serizawa is either rational or emotional enough to understand. Or Malb is able to overpower him so much that he literally just goes, friendship attack.
Mob basically
brainwashes him.
Well, he convinces him of his righteousness by saying, no, you don't understand. That guy was just manipulating you. That's not the way the real world works.
I'm going to be your first real friend.
Yeah, well,
stop attacking things. Be friends with me.
That part is more interesting to me because that involves a more human element. Like Mob saying, if the issue here, deeper than just, don't do bad thing. If the issue here is you feel totally alone, anxious, and isolated, then I'll be your friend. He's giving of himself. He's not just referencing a set of rules that have been written down somewhere and trying his best to preserve them using his psychic powers.
You don't think that the relationship between Magneto and Professor X is any surface level deeper?
Is any what?
Is any level deeper than just the surface of, oh, you do bad, I do good?
That's what it boils down to.
That's what the movies boil down to.
Magneto and X have a really complicated personal history, which is what makes their larger conflict that involves a whole bunch of other people interesting. It makes it, more fascinating and more human. Like I said before, that's the part between Mob and Serizawa that is most interesting to me is that Mob comes to. That's another thing about this episode. There's a point where he kind of stops in mid-sentence and decides to follow Mogami's advice from the last episode where Mogami escapes his capsule and he's like, you got to be harsher.
It's like some people can't be saved.
Yeah, you got to be harsher with people. And there's a moment, I think, when he's talking to Sho's father where he's going through the same moralistic spiel and he stops and he's like, you know what? Forget it. Let's fight. Is basically how he thinks. It's around when he reaches the 100% rage marker. So that I thought that was they called back to that. I mean, it only happened an episode ago, but
right.
Kind of lost my train of thought by I picking that one little part out and talking about it. But I've probably been talking enough.
Well, maybe we should dedicate an episode to breaking down the dichotomy of Marvel movies and why.
No, I don't want to talk about Marvel movies. Does it make any sense to you that superhero movies are basically like this? Like in every or most, I shouldn't say every, that's probably wrong. In most superhero films,
let's take the first superhero movie. The first one.
The very first one? What would that be?
Iron Man. The first Marvel.
Hello?
The first Marvel superhero movie. Shut up. Iron Man.
Okay,
it was the first one.
What happens in that?
You don't remember?
No, dude.
It's a great movie. So, Tony Stark.
Air quotes.
Stark Industries, they make weapons.
Yeah.
Stark gets captured.
And something about the Iraq War.
He gets forced or is supposed to be forced to make a big missile.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, he layers some plans he has together to a secret plan he had to build a suit of armor. Builds it in the desert with scrap materials.
While he's supposed to be making weapons?
Yes.
For who?
Terrorists.
Okay.
Where it's in the desert. They all have head wraps. Make your own assumptions. So
I don't need to.
He gets
Disney
out,
made them for me.
Gets out.
Ding!
He blows them up. He flies away. He decides, hey, we're gonna stop making weapons, and he decides, I'm going to be world peace. He flies around as himself. Stops fighting. Stops tanks from blowing things up. Blows them himself up. Gets in trouble for doing it. Okay. One of his business partners wants his technology to sell it.
Played by Josh Brolin? Or is that the second Iron Man? Or is that none of them and he's Thanos?
Brolin is Thanos and Cable.
Who's Cable?
Deadpool 2.
Oh, he's not in any of the Iron Mans?
No.
Iron Man?
No, I don't know who the name of the actor is who plays the bad guy.
What's the end? What's the big conflict in Iron Man that is resolved by the end?
The guy who's Stark's business partner.
He also makes a suit.
Right. Using Tony's technology.
But what does he want to do with it?
He wants to sell it to the highest bidder so that anybody who can afford it can have this weapon of mass destruction.
And that would destroy the peace, a.k.a.
or
the status quo.
Just start wars all over the place. Yeah,
right.
But essentially that. And Tony obviously doesn't want his stuff stolen or put into the hands that he deems wrong.
Right.
Because he's on like a self-justice kick for a lot of these movies.
Okay.
And that's pretty obvious.
So then he beats him.
Yes.
Preventing, war from breaking out all over the place thanks to these weapons.
Yes.
He decides what's okay. With regards to these suits, these weapons that he's created, he decides what's right.
Yes.
He enforces the
government tries to steal it from him, and with a massive team of lawyers, he basically just says, fuck you, and walks out of the courtroom.
So even in this movie, even the government is seen as a threat to the status quo that he enforces for himself with his powers.
He believes that nobody is capable of wielding this power but himself.
Nice.
So that's the first iteration of a quote-unquote superhero movie in the modern...
there were many superhero movies that came up.
In the modern realm.
No, that's not even the first modern superhero movie.
Batman's not a superhero.
Even before that, the Spider-Man films. Sam
Raimi's Spider-Man. Yeah.
I would say that Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man film is the first quote-unquote modern superhero film.
Still a Marvel movie.
No, it isn't. But okay.
Spider-Man is a Marvel property.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It was created before all the Marvel people decided to jerk each other's dicks in a gigantic circle.
I know it was 20th Century Fox. I know they owned the rights.
Okay. I didn't know what the name of the company was.
Yeah, it was Fox.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Let's move on.
Yep. Elmo.
What does that mean?
Enough. Let's move on.
That took way too long.
Yeah,
that took way too damn long.
Okay,
that was 33 minutes. I'm ashamed.
That's okay. We just took up Neverland with Marvel. I don't know which is worse.
Is definitely this. I apologize to everyone who's made it this far. Next is Kaguya-sama Wants to Be Confessed To, episode 11. So there's only one more episode of Mob coming up next week, and then same deal for Kaguya.
Yeah.
And there were 3 segments of this episode, as there often are in this.
The second segment was
actually there were kind of 4 because there was the post-credit scene.
Yeah, I watched it.
Oh, you saw it? Okay,
I did. Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
I saw that there were 6 minutes after the credits, and I was like, "All right."
No, there weren't.
It was 19 minutes when the credits started rolling, and it was a 25-minute video.
I didn't think it was that long.
I know what the timestamps were.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, there was a lot of time. Anyways.
So how did you feel about the story where she couldn't figure Twitter out? Was that relevant enough for everybody out there?
Was it just fan service? We'll never know.
You know what? That's the thing. I wrote my usual blog post, whatever, about this episode. and somebody like came back at me because I didn't totally like this episode, not all the way around. And they came back at me like, well, you just don't like fan service. That's why you didn't like the Twitter section because she was in her bathrobe and stuff. I had not even considered the fan service angle. I just thought that, her freaking out about social media was stupid.
I mean, it was pretty obvious it was fan service. It's just
I didn't even think about it.
It's just like, let's take a character with boobs and make it so that their boobs can be on screen. Let's find a reason for that to happen. And Japan does that.
They weren't on screen. They were behind a towel.
Well, no, there's one part where she just like crosses her fingertips over them.
Oh.
When Kaguya runs into the bath or whatever. And it was just, all right, cool.
I got banned from Twitter.
It's just like, all right, cool. So this is just a fan service episode. That's cool.
But it wasn't.
It happens.
I mean, maybe in the actual definition, like the broader definition of the word fan service, where it's less about the plot of the characters and more about just having fun with the format and like pleasing the fans, doing something a little different for the fans. Like, for example, the ramen chapter could be considered fan service. Most people think of fan service as
that was the best chapter,
TNA.
right?
No, I don't think so.
What?
I didn't actually like the ramen one very much.
Oh, you're so dumb.
Okay, well let's keep talking about the Twitter one first.
Okay, yeah. It's whatever.
I thought, all the stuff with Hayasaka being kind of like just weary of her job, I definitely felt that.
I feel like anybody who has a job and has to serve other people feels that.
Yeah, well, Kaguya is retarded, so she might be especially...
Which is hilarious because she's supposed to be a super genius.
Yeah, but she can't figure out how the internet works.
That's okay. She has daddy issues. That makes everything fine.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that.
Okay. But it's... We already knew that she... there was that one chapter where she's hanging out with her friends at school, or... I don't know, hanging out's not the right term. They were all... how in Japan you got to change your shoes when you go in and out of buildings?
Yeah.
Like you take your shoes off before you step up onto the...
Of course.
Yeah.
Onto the threshold.
In schools, they have the shoe lockers right when you come in.
Yep.
And so there was that scene in a past episode, somewhere around the episode 5 mark probably, where she's got her painted nails and like her short skirt, and she's talking with her other friends like, oh, we're gonna go do karaoke. Do you want to go? And she says, oh no, I can't. I got work. They leave, and then she's like, Kaguya, let's go home. Something.
Yeah.
So she blends in with the other girls as part of her job, so that she can keep tabs on Kaguya at school, I guess. What was I saying? So we already know that she has the ability to blend in with other girls, but apparently she wants to be more normal. That's something that I think she expresses in this chapter.
Hayasaka, whatever.
And she even says at one point, what if Kaguya's got her little thing going on with the president, but I don't have time for that sort of thing.
Well,
but it might be nice. Just kidding.
Yeah, she's like, I don't love anyone like that, but it might be nice. Lol JK.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously it's something that
lol JK balloon.
It's something that she, is interested in. Young love and such. So, she'll probably get paired up with somebody. It's a romantic comedy. Who will it be?
Oh, it'll be the treasurer.
Ishigami. Yeah, I don't know. It probably will. Let's be real. Are there any other men in the series?
Nope.
Kashiwagi's boyfriend, I guess.
Although, yeah, we did see...
Who is still being trailed by that nameless girl with the weird eyes. They'd better fix that shit in episode 12. I feel so bad for her. At this point, I'm not even convinced that she does like that dude. Because she's just weirdly following them around with that strange expression on her face.
I don't know, man. Japan's a weird place. Maybe that's a sign of affection.
When you have those little thin, tall looking eyes.
Yeah, of course.
You're kind of like sweat drops coming off your...
They transform when they really like someone. Just physically transform.
Into what?
A penis. What else?
I don't know what you're talking about, dude.
I don't either.
I don't know what's going on with this episode.
I don't either.
Don't talk about Marvel movies, guys. Just don't do it.
It's a trap. It makes you want to
It's a waste of
consume
life.
mass quantities.
It's a waste of your life. So I guess we're done with the Twitter. I just thought, I don't know. Probably for me personally, I was destined not to like that episode very much because they're like, she can't figure out internet. It's hilarious.
But she types really fast.
Just all the stuff about social media. I was like, would have been better for her to stay off of that shit. So hello? No, I don't endorse that.
That unfortunate. Anyways, so the ramen episode.
Yeah, the ramen episode you seem to like.
I just thought it was funny. I don't know how much. I can't really give any like legitimate commentary to it other than Fujiwara goes in and out orders a ramen
one of
expert,
the four ramen kings.
one of the four ramen kings of Japan. And
was it of Japan or was it just of certain like prefectures or regions?
I honestly don't remember. I'm just gonna say of Japan because they all came from like different areas.
Yeah, it's supposed. Apparently, that's the manga author's favorite chapter.
Huh?
His favorite chapter that he ever wrote. It shows where his priorities lie.
I guess he just loves ramen.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe his favorite stuff is like a cooking manga or something, and he was paying homage to some specific.
Or maybe he just has a huge food fetish.
Yeah, so maybe he really likes Food Wars with all the tentacle
Food.
stuff. Like somebody eats a noodle-based dish, and all of a sudden there's tentacles everywhere. Maybe he thinks that's hilarious and awesome.
Who knows? Best not for us to dwell on it, though.
I mean,
you said you didn't like it, though.
No, not really. And I mean, I'll give you an example of why. Like, there's only one episode left after this one, so we're coming down to the wire. I mean,
we're down to the my.
It's true that this is an adaptation of a manga, so it doesn't move entirely at its own pace. They're working off source material and they're deciding what's going to slot in where and stuff.
Spent a lot of time on this.
But what, the ramen thing?
It was long.
Well,
it was like 11, 12 minutes.
I don't think so. Was it?
It was longer than the two other proper quote unquote segments.
Well, yeah. But I mean, this is a chapter that they probably wanted to cover because it's the author's favorite and stuff.
Sure.
But just putting that aside, we do have only one episode left. So you want to put forward your best stuff as much as possible. So this one doesn't really advance the quote unquote story. Only one of the student council members, who are the main characters, show up. And it's Fujiwara. And we don't really learn anything new about her except she likes ramen and
she's a master of food.
Yeah.
And she eats
the
garlic.
The way to enjoy things is to be like unpretentious about it and just go for it and do, order what you want to order and eat it how you want to eat it. I think that's the lesson everyone learns in the end, is that she's just eating with,
gusto,
with childish abandon. She's just throwing herself into the dish.
Gusto.
But here's what I would have preferred. Instead of us just briefly seeing both of her sisters on vacation with her,
they also go into the ramen shop and eat it differently than her.
Forget the middle-aged manager type guy. Don't make him the narrator. Bring in all three sisters and contrast them so we can learn more about two new characters, and we can also learn more about Fujiwara based on her relationship with her family.
That requires a lot more money, though, because you need two other voice actors.
No, but that's the thing. Like, this chapter was based on the manga, so why not write the source material that way? Why take this weird detour with this middle-aged
Maybe the
dude?
manga's not like that.
Not like what?
Maybe it doesn't have just Fujiwara.
It does. It's the author's favorite chapter, so they adapted it the way it was written.
Why not do it? I don't know. Maybe they're just meant to be background characters. Maybe he didn't want to focus on them as much. Maybe
obviously
maybe
not.
he wanted to promote his favorite dive ramen shop in the middle of Tokyo.
Maybe, yeah. I assume that the whole way that this thing was constructed, he was paying homage to something. He was promoting something. Something doesn't add up, just given the big departure that this episode was from past ones.
Yeah. I liked it. I thought it was funny. I thought it was an interesting diversion. I enjoyed my time with it. And
if you didn't, fuck you.
And if you didn't, then that's fine. You do you.
Oh, I will. I'm not gonna let the haters get me down. You feel me?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so the last section.
Yeah,
Shirogane and
the
Kaguya
missed meeting at school.
They both go to the thing and they want to see each other. It happens in like 5 minutes.
Oh, it's like 4, maybe. Yeah. It's super short.
They're both because they got to make room for the post-credit scene.
It's like, oh man, I want to see her, but I don't want to talk about her. Maybe
I don't want to call her. I can't text.
Maybe she's at school.
I don't understand phones.
Oh no, she's not. I'm going home. And that was the episode.
Yeah, but then there's the post-credit scene, which is a little more interesting, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if I would say that it's interesting per se. I would definitely say that it has more depth than the parts before it.
Depth, love depth. Go on.
Oh yeah, so I love deep topics here.
Yes,
but no, it elaborates on what we already know about Kaguya.
What about her?
We already know that she doesn't have a great relationship with her parents.
Well, with her dad. Do we know anything about her mom? Is her mom dead?
Parents. I just mean that as like in general. Oh, no, we don't know any specifics about her mother. And we assume that her relationship with her parents is strained because they're never in the picture. They don't show up. She wants to be a part of Shiragane's family and she yearns for that. So we can.
Well, she has a little, fantasy about it.
I mean, we talked about it before, though. We assumed pretty easily that she doesn't have a good home life, and we're right. And we're right, of course.
Before the Kaguya firework baby debacle, we already figured out that she wanted to be a part of a family. But in this episode, she was summoned away from the shopping trip that she was going to have with 3 other girls. Fujiwara's sister, and Shiragane's sister. Yeah. She's summoned away from that. And part of me thinks that her dad caught wind of this potentially happening and yanked her out of it. Because she seems to be summoned to her family's home in Kyoto to greet her father as he's passing by on the other side of a sliding door, and that's it.
Yep.
It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me that you would bring your daughter all this way.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought the dad is trying to take her out of unfavorable situations because she doesn't want her to hang out with the rabble,
the riffraff.
The riffraff.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. It's a good word. And I mean, I could definitely see that as a point of contention for someone of his stature. Let's say he wouldn't want there to be a tabloid article. Kaguya hangs out with riffraff.
Kaguya goes shopping.
Kaguya goes shopping with girl with larger boobs. Story at 11.
Now that would be damaging to the family name. Let me tell you.
Of course it would.
I also thought briefly that it was a marriage meeting, some kind of marriage meeting was going on because the room that they were in, she was sitting at that long table on one side of it,
But she had what's her name with her?
Hayasaka.
That's right, Hayasaka.
Who calls the dad an asshole?
Yep, an ungrateful or there's an adjective in front of it.
Yeah, but it's
not very nice.
She has some choice words about him.
It's
she's kind of holding Kaguya or has her arm on her shoulder or something as she's saying it.
Basically just yo, just
Kaguya
don't be a shit dad.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't be like Drake. That's topical.
That's topical and I don't get it.
Okay.
Don't buy your way into college.
Now that's topical.
That's true.
What was I going to say? I don't even remember. Is this episode over yet?
Almost. We
Oh
only
my
have
God.
we only have 2 more episodes to go.
What was I saying? Something about her dad.
About Kaguya's dad and the
Something about buying your way into
he's an
college.
asshole and Drake. I don't know what the hell you were trying to say.
No. Something about a marriage meeting.
Yes.
I thought there was a marriage meeting going on, but there probably wasn't. No real mention was made of it.
Yeah, no mention.
Because that might be like a romantic comedy thing to do, you know. She's got her she's carrying this little torch for the president.
And if it was a romantic comedy thing, it would have been Shirogane. He just would have been like,
no, it wouldn't have. That doesn't make any sense because his family's poor. Or they just don't have billions of yen lying around.
Right, but he's like the top of this prestigious school.
Yeah, but her dad probably doesn't care about that.
I mean,
if the theory that he yanked her out of this shopping trip because she's like getting too familiar with the commoners,
but she wasn't,
is accurate. Then,
she wasn't going with him.
I know, but if that theory is accurate, then he's another one of the people that she wouldn't be allowed to associate with.
He's another one who's enforcing the status quo.
So, here's what I was going to talk about. She keeps denying, that any of this is hurtful to her. Over and over, she says it doesn't hurt. It doesn't.
Yeah,
he never says good job or welcome home or I love you or anything.
I think that's a pretty universal lie that a lot of people tell themselves when they don't get affirmation from not just their parents but from anyone in general.
It doesn't hurt.
It's just like I don't need that. I don't need people to tell me I did a good job. I don't need recognition for my work, which is a lie.
I don't need my spouse to tell me I look nice or to do nice things for me.
Or to me.
Hey. Kaguya-sama wants to have things done to her. Episode 11.
What is it? What was it? God, I cannot remember the name. Hayasake wants to be like wet or something like that was the name of the first section. Or wants to be like deeply moist or something super suggestive. And the second one was like Fujiwara wants it in her mouth.
Are you serious?
Was the name of the episode.
I missed these.
They were all just like 11-year-old sex jokes. And I was just like, yeah, because she wants to take a bath and it's hilarious. She wants to eat food. Yeah.
All right. Well,
I think Kagi's wasn't as bad.
It's worth noting that the post-credit scene was part 1. The chapter name said it was part 1 of something. So there's going to be a part 2 next time, which will lead in probably to the fireworks at the summer festival. I have to imagine that that's going to be like the conclusion.
Fireworks.
She's going to be like pulled away from whatever situation she's in. Her friends are going to come rescue her from this house where her father's holding her prisoner.
Up in
it's just going to be
Kyoto.
Rapunzel-sama wants to be taken to the fireworks show.
Wants to let down her hair.
Right. At the fireworks show.
Yeah.
Episode 12.
Season 1.
All right, Planetes is a show that we watched and is the last one we're going to be discussing.
Yes.
This godforsaken podcast episode. Don't
bring
up Marvel ever again.
Don't remind me. Yeah, I really liked episode 5.
Yeah, you mentioned that before we started recording. So episode 5 was the one where, to me, episode 5 felt like it was like a short play.
Like a play in 3 acts.
Well,
and then in
in the
4th act.
A lot of plays are in 3 acts. But I'm just talking about like a short one, one that would have a bunch of, I don't know, maybe take an hour total. Each of the acts would be 20 minutes as opposed to these big, long productions you usually see when you go to see, like, get dressed up to see a play someplace. It's like 3 hours and you're practically comatose by the end of it.
Yep. You're asking for a drink halfway through intermission.
Halfway through intermission?
Halfway through the first act. Excuse me.
It just felt kind of like it was staged, because everybody, there were a bunch of like short or small
interactions,
little scenes with distinct groups of people who were just introduced for this one episode.
You've got the porno dudes. You've got the mom and dad and their death pact.
Yeah, and you've got the thief.
You've got the thief, and you've got our brave debris section.
Yep. So it kind of felt, when I say it felt kind of like a short play, I just mean it felt like very self-contained, and all the individual threads come like rushing together to kind of close things out. Because then you get all the characters who were segregated in their own little spaces.
Yeah.
As it often is in plays, like when they cut to the next scene, they got to dim the lights and they shuffle all the set dressing around. They get the new props on stage and such. And everybody, all the characters did seem to be sequestered in their own little sections. With the exception maybe of the mom and dad, because they're like running around looking for their daughter.
Yeah, they're all over the place. They're in every scene.
Yeah, but then everybody comes together on the grander stage,
right? In the grand finale with the barrel roll and the dude gets knocked out.
Yeah. Hachimaki
do a barrel roll.
They do indeed do a barrel roll to great dramatic effect. So, what did you love about this section? Why did you like the episode?
I just really liked the story with the mom and dad, and the realization they came to when trying to save their daughter from what they believe to be certain death. It's like, how dare you decide, her future for her?
Right. When they're having that big back and forth with the thief, whose life is like, who he feels as though his life is just one big shit pile.
And he's just like, everyone else's life is just like mine. And they say to her, like, how dare you shoehorn her life into what's happened to you. And they realize,
they both like visibly look at each other.
They visibly recoil and look at each other. Like, yeah, that's a little cliche.
That's what we're doing.
It's a little cliche, but I still like the overall story of like the mom and dad who's just, it's just like, we're in this huge debt. They've come after us. They've come after our neighbors. They're going to come after our daughter. This is better for her.
Right. They can't leave her with any family.
It takes such a severe and almost ridiculous situation to kind of shock them into what we're doing is fucking stupid mode.
Right. Or is it? Is that just a social norm?
Generally speaking,
don't kill your child.
Yeah, generally speaking, not killing your child is an accepted social norm.
Hey, what about Spider Society? Come on, man.
I don't know if you want me to put my head through your desk right now.
Black Widow lives matter.
Brown recluse lives matter more. Or at least they'll get more news coverage.
I didn't know that. It's true that
it's more rare.
That the families, or the family with the daughter, they realize the value of a human life, or at least they realize the value of their daughter's life.
Yeah. And I think because that was really the core of the episode, that was really the kind of the whole point. It was a story in 3 acts that all had to kind of come together. I like that overall part. I like you kind of set the parents up as villains at the start.
The very first thing that you hear them talk about, I believe, is like the crippling debt that they're in this terrible sympathetic situation. I don't know if they've been set up as villains.
But right after that, they talk about how they're going to kill themselves and their daughter.
Yeah, but when you say that's
pretty evil.
When you say set up as villains, I don't think the way that you construct like a hateable, objectively, let's not use the word objectively.
There's
been enough of that today.
What do you mean?
That's not the way that you create like a really hateable villain who's supposed to be seen as, wrong, and bad.
Yeah.
Their plight is terrible, and they feel as though there's no alternative, and that's something that I like about this episode.
But I don't see them as sympathetic though.
Oh well, I don't really either, but we are supposed to understand about them that the reason they're doing this is because they're in such a terrible situation.
I mean, we understand the reason, but that doesn't make people sympathetic.
Do you see what I'm saying? The show is not making them out to be mustache twirling, puppy kicking, bad.
No, you're just making them out to be like, oh, we're in a bad situation, so we're going to kill our child as well as us.
Well, that's the thing that Planet Taste has been doing since the very beginning, is showing us that space is not a utopia. This future, this version of 2075 is not perfect. In fact, the trip into outer space has caused more distance between higher and lower classes, more economic disparity, more like existential dread because you're out in the middle of fucking nowhere, more misery. And this is just another
way for salesmen to get at you.
No, what I mean is these parents, this mom and dad and their daughter in the situation they're in, is another way that the show is driving that point home. Like, space is really, it's scary, and opportunities, despite it's seeming like there are more, there are actually fewer because everyone's so spread out.
Right. I think I see what you're trying to say.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is another way that the show is constructing that portrait of the future, is through these two characters, or three, because the daughter is playing hide and seek in those little rover things, whatever they're called. Yeah.
They're basically escape pods. I think they called them. They didn't call them drop pods. They called them something else.
I can't remember. Remember. It wasn't escape pods. They were for some purpose. I don't know. Another thing to note about the scene where, at the very end, the big climax where everyone comes together in that room, and the thief who's got the girl at knife point. What does he have?
A ballpoint pen.
A ballpoint pen. Okay. At pen point. He says, like, all this waiting for this child is a life of misery. Hachimaki says to him, like, do you know how stupid you sound right now? That you're not making any sense. That's ridiculous. Am I imagining that? You just watched the episodes, right?
Yeah.
What does Hachimaki say to him, if anything?
I really don't think he says anything.
Okay. You're right. I'm looking over at my notes here, and all I wrote is he scoffs.
He's like,
yeah. So I was imagining that in my head, him having said anything to the thief. But he does.
You wage slave, you don't know what it's like.
What?
That's what you would do.
Hachimaki does kind of like, when he hears the criminal, talking that way, I'm sure he's thinking to himself, like,
that's the same way I talk.
No, he's thinking to himself, that guy's crazy. But that is the same way that he thinks and talks. Because he's the same, well, he's not the same, but he's also bitter and frustrated.
And it feels like he's stuck in a rut with nowhere to go.
Yeah.
But he hasn't resorted to stealing shit.
No.
Or threatening to kill small children.
He's a good guy.
He's a good boy.
He can't be doing stuff like that, because then he couldn't be the main character.
Because then he couldn't sell DVDs.
Right.
We all know that's what anime is really about.
So it was kind of I thought it was very different from past episodes. Obviously, they're in a different place.
I mean, if you want to talk about different, we'll talk about episode 6.
Yes, that's a good transition to episode 6. Episode 6 was very different. I see you kind of rolling your eyes. So what was your opinion of episode 6?
The village hidden on the moon.
Right. The village hidden in the craters.
The village hidden in
the stars.
Dumb people.
Yeah, it was really strange. I didn't totally understand the episode either. For example, they were sent there because there was some sort of business that
they were promised work from a businessman, a lucrative work. The businessman.
You're talking about the moon people.
Yes.
No, that's okay. Yes, that's true. They were promised jobs, and that didn't pan out because the guy ended up skipping town with the money.
I think they were actually sent there by their corporation, hence why her lease is for 2 months. In order to do like specific jobs, and they're just that was like their settle-in day.
But I didn't get it. Like, why did they go there?
I didn't either. I didn't get like a clear explanation as to why.
What was the deal with the marriage meeting between Hachimaki and that girl? I didn't understand that at all.
Anything's better than a ninja.
And yeah, but he like Hachimaki was set up on that meeting by his boss, the head of the debris section, that, you know, the fat blonde guy with the glasses.
Yeah, I remember him.
Why did he set up his employee on this marriage meeting?
Because he's the best boss ever, obviously.
I just didn't like, not a lot of what am I trying to say right now? So much time and attention was paid to the moon ninjas that there wasn't a lot of detail being put into, like, for example, Fee meeting that old coworker of hers when she goes into
where
the hotel.
He kind of starts blabbering on, and she's just like, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the last we really get of that, like, that reconnection or even anything
or
having
even
to do with Fee.
Yeah.
And I don't understand. I don't know. Maybe I just need to do a closer reading of the episode, but I was baffled by everything that happened.
I was affluent.
I mean, it's cool that the moon only has 1/6 or 1/8 of the gravity of Earth, so they could do ninja techniques.
Ninpo.
Yeah. Ninpo on the moon.
Ninpo Shurigan.
And then they
they
do the flying squirrel thing at the end. They all end up with the broken feet, you know, haha.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. This episode was just so strange.
It was bizarre. I mean, I thought it was entertaining and I thought it was fun.
I didn't even think it was that.
Really? You don't think like a bunch of dudes acting like ninjas that they're not was fun?
No, probably because I didn't understand what the main characters were doing in that situation in the first place. Like, the entire thing felt totally devoid of context.
They all came to that place, you know.
Well, in episode 5, they're on a trip to the moon, right? Which they reference as a vacation. But they're on their way to the moon for business, aren't they?
No, the parents say that to their daughter. But we're on a vacation. We're on a trip to the moon. It's not actually that. We're actually going to kill ourselves here.
But what about Tanabe? Doesn't she say that, like, we're on vacation? It's been so long since we've had a vacation or something.
I don't really remember. Maybe she's treating it as a vacation, even if it's not.
Yeah, that was the theory that I was forced to create in my head, because episode 6 reveals that they're on their way to the moon for some weird business-related reasons.
That's the reasoning I just came up with, so I don't know.
Okay. I didn't get it.
I thought it was fun, though.
Okay, well, that's good. You like the flying squirrel bit?
Yeah, I thought it was funny.
And the
implausible, but
the woman
funny.
kind of like briefly reconnects with her ex-husband,
and then it's just like, "Hey, yo, fuck off, you're unemployed."
Yeah, like what a funny coincidence. Haha.
What a bitch.
What? Wait, what?
This is an anime. How is she not just like head over heels in love with him for running up a burning building and saving her? Like, how dare she? How dare she not just like be crying in his arms and just be like, "Oh, please take me back." That's it. Did they know anything about anime?
Do you?
No. Do you?
A little bit.
Apparently not enough to know this wasn't stereotypical enough.
Okay, so what I was just talking about in episode 5, the show doing a pretty good job of selling this like scary version of the future where not everything is.
They completely redacted that in this episode.
Well, they didn't. They actually went one farther. Like when Tanabe goes to get set up in her hotel room on the bottom floor, because, you know, they've got the really high class stuff literally on the top floors of the hotel, and then in the basement
there's a man and a wife fighting.
Yes.
And there's a bottle breaking.
There's a black guy who's drunk.
Yeah,
and is like making weird noises as they're walking to their rundown hotel.
There's a couple fighting. It's just like, "Oh, you cheated on me."
And they have literally a group of, I don't know how many ninjas who are unemployed because of reasons beyond their control.
6 unemployed ninjas.
Yeah, but the whole thing about their unemployment is like a total sob story and is coincidental, essentially, compared to the the rough lives that the average man must be facing in this future. So it just went too far with all that stuff. I was rolling my eyes.
They've gone too far with the grit in their space drama.
Yeah, the grit kind of disappeared for this episode, and it was replaced with Ninpo.
Silly putty.
Ninpo. A Planetace no Jutsu. Flying
no
squirrel.
jutsu indeed.
Kiku.
I had fun with the episode, though.
All right, well, that's good.
I think that's what matters.
Yeah, in the end, I'd agree. Are we done?
I think we are.
All right, well, I am like kind of embarrassed about how this episode of the podcast went. Probably one of the worst we've ever done.
I've got a pretty good title for it, though.
Oh my God. I do the titles, bro.
Mob, Marvel, and Why It Doesn't Matter.
Okay. Well, maybe we can go with that. It's not bad. I kind of like it, actually. And Why It Doesn't Matter. Or just don't click this.
Yeah. Mob, Marvel, please don't click this. That'll make people click it.
Well, I don't want them to click it. I unironically want them not to listen to this.
I ironically want them to listen to this and then hate themselves.
I unironically want people to listen to it ironically. So next week, I'm going to try to keep it together a little better.
Yeah.
Actually do it in an hour because we're going to do the same format of, one mob, one Kaguya, two Planetace. And also, maybe by next week, we will have watched the PVs for the spring season, which is coming up soon.
We could do a PV rundown. No, we won't do that.
No, I'm not really eager to give our rundown or reaction to anything. I'd say that's a terrible.
We could say what shows we liked though of the PVs. At the least
we can talk about like the 10 that we're planning on previewing for the week after that, assuming that they'll all have aired by then. I'm not sure they will have.
Also, for any of you who are animation fans, you should check out Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix.
Do it. The power of the big N compels you.
It's a lot of different Western animation studios putting together.
What do you mean, like Pixar?
No.
What do you mean, like DreamWorks?
Like Blur Studios and a couple others. Blur is actually really famous. Put together, honestly, kind of just like a hodgepodge of short stories and tales and stuff. Some of them are pretty good. Some of them are pretty bad. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag, but I think a lot of them are enjoyable. So definitely give at least 40% of it a recommend.
Hey, that's not bad. 40%. That's
better than anime.
That's practically a passing grade when it comes to cartoons. The bar is low.
It's very low, and it's always open.
The bar is always open?
Yeah.
Nice. Because I could use a drink. We'll see y'all next week.
Hell yeah, brother.